Well, hello again, KCIW listeners, and welcome to Curry Café. I'm producer and volunteer Rick McNamer. Every Sunday from 3 to 4, your host, Ray Gary, puts together a panel of guests to discuss topics of interest in our community. Listeners can participate by texting in at questions or comments 541-661-4098. Again, that text line is 541-661-4098. And now here's Ray to tell us about today's show.
Well, we have a guest going to be here soon, and as always, I searched everywhere to find one, and he agreed to do the show, but I'm not sure I told him he was supposed to be here.
Well,
some people you have to be very specific about all the instructions, and if I didn't say...
I believe he's on his way. I think we're officially notified that our guest, Robert O'Sullivan, will be here shortly. So we're going to be a little winging it for the first few minutes.
Yeah, that's me winging it.
Well, that's your M.O., buddy.
Yeah.
You can wing it all you want.
Anyway, no doubt he's probably turning into the driveway as we speak. And
okay, well, while we have the opportunity, we can go ahead and talk about next week's show.
Next week's show.
We were just talking about.
Next week's show is going to be fun. We're going to talk, we're going to have some experts here that know about this subject. We're going to talk about movies, primarily kind of old movies, either that were just really, really bad, or for some reason or other had a memorable part, or I don't know, just whatever we want, but I think it'll be a fun show. Many of us have sat around at a dinner table and talked about the old television shows or Summer of 42 or whatever.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that here for everybody's enjoyment, and you can join in with a text. And you can text that show or this show, 541-661-4098. That's a text where you can say anything you want.
And that we've talked about the movies that I would call them so bad that they're good. They definitely have an entertainment value.
But we've been talking about one that is so bad it's so bad. There is nothing good about it. It's not entertaining. And
I might disagree, but go ahead.
Okay, it's called Plan 9 from Outer Space. Right, and is agreed by just about everybody to be the absolute worst movie ever made. I watched it one time, and I keep waiting. Well, okay, the gags are going to start soon because this movie can't be serious. And all the way to the end, I thought it's a spoof, but no. And another spoof that the person I went to this movie with, and I can't remember the name of the movie, Tropical something or other. It was a rom-com. It was out a year or so ago.
Oh, that one I don't.
And rom-coms are pretty bad.
Oh, boy, they can be bad.
This one had so many rom-com elements in it. I said, well, this is a joke. It's a spoof. But evidently the people who are doing the reviewing and everything, I'll think of the name of that.
Okay.
I should have done that before I brought it up, I know.
No, that's okay. And then, of course...
Hey, what do you want? For the money they're paying me, I can't necessarily be organized.
You get more than I do. I know that because you're the host and the famous radio personality.
Yeah.
I'm lower than that. And hey, if you think about it, people that are listening and maybe think about texting your own terrible movies that you can look at and laugh at nowadays or whatever. And I had a couple. Well, we had one person say Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. There's one.
That's a good one.
And
but they won't necessarily be bad movies. They'll be movies that, our guest is going to agree with me with classic movies that had unbelievable parts in them. I have watched King Kong 17 times.
Oh,
and I have the disc in my VCR ready to go to watch it again.
Okay.
Dracula, the Bela Lugosi Dracula.
Okay, yeah.
Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein, both of them were really
very good one. One of my favorite old-time actresses who was married to Charles Laughton, and now, of course, her name is failing me, but the one that played the Bride of Frankenstein. Elsie Lanchester, it just came.
Interestingly enough, and I don't exactly know why they did that, but if you remember, that movie starts out with, what's her name? The woman that wrote them, Shelley.
Oh.
And friends are sitting around talking about writing a story or doing a story, and she starts to tell the story, and then it fades into the real thing.
Right.
And she also plays the Bride of Frankenstein.
Right. Again, that's Elsa Lanchester. Really, really love that actress. She was in a few movies. One with Charles Laughton, one of my favorite courtroom movies. And let me think of that name, and it's fading me now. So okay, I won't think of it right now, but it's great. Charles Laughton plays a stodgy old lawyer, and Elsa Lanchester is his assistant, if you will. And well, I can't think of the name, so never mind.
Okay.
You have to put
This is what happens when we're not prepared.
Oh,
we forget what we were talking about. Exactly. Apocalypse Now is a great movie.
Okay, agreed.
Great movie. Another great movie that I just reminded of today was JFK, about the assassination of Kennedy.
I never saw.
And there's a lot of things in it that are caca. It's not. I guess it was meant to be real, but it's not real. But it's just a good movie, a very entertaining movie, regardless of whether or not you thought he was
right
killed by just what's his name or whatever. And I see by the smile on Rick's face, as he looks towards the window, towards the door,
you bet.
And our
guest
chief guest has arrived. He's gearing up right now, putting on his.
So now you won't have
official radio stuff.
So Ray and I babble around with an unprepared. No, it was fine.
Praise the Lord.
Can I make a confession?
Oh, please. This is Robert O'Sullivan, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Robert. Here we go.
I took a nap this afternoon and set the alarm on my phone, as I often do, but I forgot to set it to p.m. So...
that's something I don't think I've ever done in my life, and I'm very ridiculous because I do it all the time.
Brings to mind that we don't have anything on at 2 a.m. Maybe we should explore the idea of doing a 2 a.m. show.
Does, but nothing.
Bob would have been right on time.
Okay. Robert O'Sullivan is here. Thank you, Robert. Like I said, I think we've all had mishaps on our cell phone alarms. So go ahead, Robert. You can start out what we were going to talk about today. Pretty interesting subject, and I did my research, and as a non-sports fan, I haven't been a sports fan in 10 or more years, but it was a very interesting story with this young man we're going to talk about.
Okay, I taught at Oakland High School in Oakland, not California, not Oakland in Michigan, or there's another Oakland somewhere else. And in his junior year, Damian Lillard transferred to Oakland High. And he now is back with the Portland Trail Blazers. He's injured, having an Achilles heel tendon dealt with. But this next year, with payments from his former team for a while, the Milwaukee Bucks, and his longtime former team, Portland, and now present team, he's going to be making something like $68 million basically to do nothing. I shouldn't quite put it that way, but he's healing. He's the head coach said he'll be the assistant coach, and he's going to be tutoring some young stars that are developing. So he's not exactly doing nothing, but that takes me back to Oakland High. Damian was a talented player as a young high school student. The way players are often identified as young men, as teenagers, is, of course, in their high schools, but also in what's called AAU basketball. That's AAU stands for Association of American Athletes or something like that. And he became known in those circles. And it's also true, at least in California, that there's a lot of moving around among young athletes. And with probably some family support, as a high school freshman, he went to a high school in a community near Oakland called San Lorenzo. It's on the other side of San Leandro. It's largely an all-white area, some Hispanic, very, very few blacks. But there must have been some family connection whereby he could go to that high school in San Lorenzo. It had a black coach, but all the players other than Damian were white. And Damian was the star of the team, even as a high school freshman. But a lot of parents of the other students on the team and people in San Lorenzo in general were upset that here was this black star and their kids weren't getting as much playing time as they wanted. And besides, this was San Lorenzo. Now, I don't know how much people know about East Bay historical politics, but Oakland has had a large black population from around World War II times, and but south of it is a place called San Leandro. And for years, San Leandro had only one black resident, a doctor, for like 30 years, and it's eventually got integrated more. And the nearby unincorporated San Lorenzo was similarly. It was not a place for black people. So with all his talent, this family decided that they had to do something. Oh, and the coach was fired, and they got a white coach. That he had to go somewhere else. And there was what seemed to be an obvious place to go if they could afford it, and that was a Catholic high school in Alameda, St. Joseph's. And that high school had gained quite a bit of fame not too long before Damian's time by having an all-star guard who eventually became a NBA Hall of Famer and is now coach of the Dallas Mavericks, Jason Kidd. And the family scraped together enough money that he was paid the tuition to go to St. Joseph's and play with the team that Jason Kidd had won 2 state Division I championships, although it was a smaller Catholic school. And but when he got there, he got almost no playing time. And at the end of the season, he had a little talk with his coach, and the coach did something that teachers often do, but sometimes with good intentions and sometimes just with a sort of orneriness. When he asked Damian what his goals in life were, he said he wanted to play in the NBA. And the response by the coach was that you have a much better chance of being hit by lightning than to be able to play in the NBA.
Which is probably a true statement.
It probably is a true statement. And
a little discouraging.
As a teacher, I maybe use that analogy, a few times, but I more kindly suggested to people who thought they had a big career before them in sports or in entertainment or in music to make sure to have a plan B. And that's reasonable advice, but to have it told to a very talented young athlete after his family sacrificed so he could go to the school in Alameda, and to have that conversation and probably not delivered very kindly, in that the coach rarely played him that year. And I forget all the details, but within a day or two, Damian transferred then to Oakland High. And the next year, as his junior year, he starred, he did well. And the following year, I had him as a senior honor student. And also, it turned out I had him as kind of for one period a day, as sort of a personal assistant who'd run errands for me and sometimes grade papers and those kind of things. So I got to know him very well.
I'm guessing at that time you sensed something special about him?
I saw him play. And as you know, I in my late 30s became a pretty serious basketball player, became Silky. And so there was a natural liking of
that.
And Oakland High, despite it being the oldest high school in Oakland, is not a terribly a school is terribly dominated by one ethnicity. Okay. It's in an area which includes Oakland's Chinatown includes some white areas that are fairly expensive, although there were very few American white students who ever went to Oakland High, at least 13 years or so that I taught there. And the white students I had were from Bosnia, which was unusual and interesting. But anyway, Oakland Athletic League has a very famous history. It produced two of the major league sports first manager or coach in the NBA or Major League Baseball who were black. These were also frequent MVP winners, and they were also, would you believe, teammates on the same high school, junior high, or junior varsity team. These two people were named Bill Russell, and the other one was Frank Robinson. Bill Russell went on to win 11 NBA titles in the 13 years he played in the league, and several of those as player coach, and he was the first black coach in the NBA. So his high school teammate, Frank Robinson, starred in a similar way in Major League Baseball. In fact, he won Most Valuable Player awards in both leagues and became the first black manager in Major League Baseball. So Oakland Athletic League, although it produced a lot of star athletes, very few of them were from Oakland High. It was a school that was much more balanced with Hispanic and Asian students than some of the other schools in Oakland were. As a player in high school, I saw something in Damian that I rarely would see in a basketball player at that age. He somehow had the ability to really figure out how he was going to be guarded, and therefore would change what he would do that way. Now, that's something I learned in my 30s. I realized that some people were recognizing my unusual game, which featured a left-handed hook shot and behind-the-back passes and just an unusual game. But when they started overguarding me to the left, I would just do a behind-the-back dribble and go to the right, and they'd be going this way, and I'd be going that way, and or I might throw a good pass. Or anyway, I knew that skill, but I was very impressed when a young man 16 years old or so had that skill. Now, the way college athletes were recruited in those days had to do with a lot of scouts going to these AAU basketball events that happen all over the land in lots of different places. In fact, LeBron James at one time played for an Oakland team in AAU basketball. It was just that kind of thing. And so while Damian wasn't especially noticed until his junior and senior year as a basketball player in the high school level, he had been noticed in the AAU. And one of the outfits that started to notice him was a place in Utah called Weber State. Now, Weber State is not exactly a well-known school. It's a large state college, and but Utah's Utah, and
not quite a basketball
not a hot,
famous place. Yeah, hot
not
college.
a hotbed, although they do have the Utah Jazz, which is sort of an oxymoron.
They should change the name.
They had been the New Orleans Jazz. That's how they got the name. But,
yeah.
But just like we have Grizzlies now in Memphis, they had been in Vancouver. But nonetheless, Weber State noticed him in his AAU games, had scouts at his high school games, and at the beginning of the senior year, and this is when I was first getting to know him as a student of mine, they made a deal with him. They signed him to scholarships and all of that, and there was a signing ceremony early in his senior year, like in September. Now, this is not real usual, but Weber State had probably noticed that he hadn't been getting a whole lot of attention and wanted to make him an offer. And, well, if he later decides to turn it down and go somewhere with a bigger basketball history, so be it. But they signed him in September, and I remember talking with him at the time and saying, well, at least you probably won't be sitting on the bench very much, except maybe at the very start of your career. With your talent, you'll probably become a starter quite soon. And indeed he did. When he got there, I think he was on the benches at the start of the games for his first 3 or 4 games, but then he played as a starter thereafter and did really well, playing much of 4 years at Weber State. I say much of 4 years because he had an injury. He had a broken foot and missed much of one season and actually had another season of eligibility if he wanted to after his 4 years there. But after those 4 years, he decided to turn pro. And in the draft that year, he was drafted number 6, which is high up.
And the first round of the NBA
draft. In the first round of the NBA draft.
That's pretty awesome.
And most of the people chosen were from Kentucky or
UCLA,
Duke, UNLV
regular,
was a power in those days.
Yeah.
But anyway, he signed with them and showed a particularity about him that of loyalty that started in the AAU leagues. He could have transferred to that well-known AAU team in Oakland that a few years earlier LeBron James had been part of. They asked him to join him, but he was going to be loyal to the team he played with and didn't go for that. And similarly, he remained loyal at Weber State. Nowadays, the NCAA rules about changing one's school has loosened up quite a bit. In those days, it wasn't very common.
Right.
But when people saw he was tearing up the Big Sky Conference, which he was in, the bigger schools started making requests of him, and he was willing to just ignore them and stayed there for 4 years. And many people were surprised when they didn't even know how to pronounce the name. They thought it was Weber State.
That's what I've called it. Now I know differently.
Yeah, well, most people would. And it sounds like a place where George Foreman's barbecue might have a cook-off with some other barbecue maker, with the Weber barbecue makers, and not star basketball players.
I'm just curious, where in Utah is Weber?
Ogden.
Oh, in Ogden.
I think it's the second largest city in Utah. I'm not really sure about that.
So. Okay.
And anyway, he got drafted by Portland. Played in the summer league, played very well, and in his first 3 games in the NBA, he set records that had been set by only 2 other people before them. One was Oscar Robertson, and the other was, I think, Will Chamberlain. I'm not positive on that.
Oh,
but
okay.
If you know better, tell me.
No, again, my disclaimer was I haven't been a sports fan for quite a long time.
Okay.
But researching him was fun research. He was a phenomenal player and a phenomenal man.
Uh-huh.
I read also where he broke, I believe, Steph Curry's 3-point record for a rookie in the NBA.
I think that may well be true.
Steph Curry is one of the biggest.
They're curious comparisons between Steph and Damian.
Okay.
They're both around my height, which is not terribly tall for an NBA
he's not a
player.
very big guy.
Damian's 6'2", 6'3", and so is Steph, I think.
For an NBA player, that's average maybe.
Oh no, it's far below average.
Okay.
In fact, for guards, it's maybe close to average, but there's some guards going back to Magic Johnson game were 6'9" or so.
You bet.
Anyway, he played a really fine rookie year and was unanimously chosen as the Rookie of the Year in the NBA. And there were some other fine players that year, including I'm thinking of the wrong name, but the man who was recently traded from the Lakers to the Dallas Mavericks in one of the most famous trades of late.
Recently, you said?
Yeah, recently.
Okay.
In the last 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
Could I get a word in here?
Sure.
Oh, go ahead, Ray.
This doesn't really follow your train of thought there, but
Train of dribbles.
yeah, there you go. I know nothing about basketball. I have a little story about knowing nothing about basketball. If we have time for me to tell that when anyway, when I lived in a little town in Alaska called Healy, a few hundred people, and I had a foster child at the time who, as a freshman, was playing freshman basketball. What they did there is they started the night with freshman basketball and then went right through JV and a varsity. And if you were a freshman, you couldn't come to the game by yourself. You had to have a parent who was there, which, of course, was me. And even though we could have left after the game, she, of course, wanted to stay and hang out with her friends. Now, I knew nothing about basketball, and I used to sit with a friend of mine whose daughter was a star on the varsity team. And he was an Eskimo. He didn't know anything about basketball either. And the two of us would sit there for the whole night trying to figure out what was going on. But anyway, that's not why I interrupted you. You keep mentioning height, which is obviously as an advantage for a basketball player for some reason. Is that just because they're closer to the basket, or is there some other advantage?
Well, if you never dunked a basketball, you understand that if you were a foot taller, you probably could.
Okay, so that's the basic advantage of just being.
Well, the basket is 10 feet above the ground in all basketball, except for playground junior.
Right.
high.
We used to go to grammar school once over 8 feet just to duck.
Yeah.
So anyway, yes, Robert.
And which leads me to another aside. There's an interesting thing about a lot of players from around the world now doing well in the NBA. And part
of the new thing too, isn't it? There's a lot of
they're especially from European countries,
Greece, Italy, I guess.
Yeah, Greece, Italy, Spain, France.
Yeah.
And especially what was the former Yugoslavia and Serbia, Bosnia.
Okay.
But there, they learn the game in a much more disciplined way than playing in AAU ball and high school ball in the United States. There's a lot of really skilled coaching about how to play defense, how to do footwork, how to dribble, how to look for open people to pass to. And some players naturally do those things, while a lot of players get the ball and shoot. And they might learn one skill, but not a whole lot of others. And in my case, I learned the skill of a hook shot, but I never really developed a good jump shot. And but the European players especially, and now some African players and some from the Caribbean and so forth, have been doing really well in the NBA, partially because of that training.
In the team, and everybody has a different position name, is one of those positions more likely to be shooting? Is that kind of the
guards, maybe?
Historically, there used to be a point guard, a shooting guard, small forward, strong forward, and a center. But the way the game has evolved, a lot of the point guards are also fine shooters, and that would fit both Damian and Steph Curry and a whole number of other ones in the league. So the off guard or the shooting guard is often someone who has really good defensive skills or is kind of what's called a wing, and that is on fast breaks. They get on the far left side or the far right side if who's ever carrying the ball is in the center and needs someone to pass to, they'll pass it to one of the people in the wings.
And the fast breaks, I think everybody, as an erstwhile basketball sports fan, the Lakers had that down to a T, I believe. Now, for all you listeners and basketball fans, you can text in 541-661-4098. I wanted to jump
Or
back.
if you're not a basketball fan and you have a silly question like I just had, go ahead.
Yeah, you can be like Ray.
Yes.
But anyway, I wanted to jump back real quick to Weber State when doing the reading. And again, I was enthralled reading about this gentleman. I really was. It was a great story.
Yes.
He's unique, in my opinion.
In many ways.
So his career, if you will, at Weber State, he wasn't like, I think you said he wasn't well recruited at one time in Oakland. Maybe not, or maybe partly because of he wasn't the biggest kid out there, but
It might have been because he signed early. Most signings are after the basketball season, but he signed in September of his senior year.
Well, apparently, when he was at Weber State, that's what vaulted him when they saw him at this, I'll call it an innocuous little college. That's probably not the right thing, but not a well-known basketball hotbed. That vaulted him way up, and they were noticing him, and that's what made him the sixth place in the first round.
And in his last year at Weber State, he led the nation Division I NC2A in scoring most of the season. But curiously, someone from Oakland University in Michigan beat him out for that honor in the last 2 weeks of the season or so.
I'll be
no big thing, but it was part of his being recognized and going so high in the draft.
And another another Oakland athlete I wanted to throw out. I don't think he might not have played at Oakland High, but who played with the Athletics came from Oakland, Ricky Henderson.
Yes, indeed.
Pretty famous guy right there.
Sports. Yes, and Kurt Flood went to McClymonds, which is where and Kurt Flood was a fine center fielder in baseball, but he also was one most responsible for getting rid of the system whereby owners really controlled the future ball players much more so than they have in any sports.
Yeah.
It was an antitrust thing that baseball especially had, and he was the one that eventually broke that down, although it hurt his career. And Ricky Henderson had gone to Oakland Tech, and there's a fine athlete from the Seattle Seahawks who went to Oakland Tech. Well, a football player, I can't think of his name right now. But it's Oakland High, other than John Brody a long time ago, never produced a whole lot of fine athletes in the way some of the other Oakland schools did.
I remember watching John Brody. Yeah. And I'll backpack, if that's the right word, on Ray's talking about the height only. Yeah, of course height is an advantage in the NBA. But as of the big, I'll call them the big three. I guess you could throw out four with big four sports, hockey, but I won't go there. I just say basketball, football, and baseball being cut both from the basketball team and the baseball team, right? Made football. I think basketball is the most intense athleticism, speed.
You have to keep running. You're moving all the time.
It's not just height. And like I said, back to Damian not being all that tall, he seems to incorporate. And then just a thought process, I think Magic Johnson had it in steroids, and maybe Damian does too, being able to, and you talked about it, passing, know when to pass, know how to pass. It's an intense sport, and you go all out. I think more so than football or baseball.
Beg to differ a little bit on that.
Ray's going to demote me for that one. Anyway.
Playing third base on a Major League Baseball team.
Well, I'm thinking,
just watch the ballet of a double play.
Oh, no, it's there. But come on, not the intensity. They never
There's
stop
a lot
hardly.
of ballet in basketball.
Oh, yeah.
And my own game it was a little peculiar because I had what's sometimes called the white man's disease.
I have that.
I could jump, but whether I could jump noticeably was another problem.
Okay.
And so my way of dealing with that is when people started especially guarding me for my hook shot, I kept developing a fake hook shot. And I don't play anymore because I hurt my shoulder and I can't get it up very high, but my left hand hook shot, I would fake a hook shot, the defender would jump to block it, and while he was still in the air, I could just do a behind the back dribble or a fancy pass, and they're just waiting to come down. Hang time is not an advantage if the ball's not
right
going in the direction that you're hanging in the air.
Right.
So that's part of how one learns to cope when one doesn't have every skill that might be necessary for the sport.
And again, talking about Damian, of course, that's who we're talking about. He was overwhelmingly loved in Portland.
Oh, yes.
I mean, more so than any other player. And his brief stint in Milwaukee, well, anyway, Portland, he always said he wanted to go back to Portland, and I think Portland is proven now, wanted him back. And again, like you say, pay him for nothing. We all know it's not. He's more of almost a spiritual guide for these younger players.
Yeah.
And for the city itself. It sounds like they're definitely in love with this guy. And I see why. He's special.
For a long, long time, and of course, Portland did have Clyde Drexler, Clyde the Glide.
Remember that one.
And Bill Walton didn't play there very long, but brought them their only championship.
Right. Yeah.
And Maurice Lucas, who was a really fine power forward in the days when those positions were more clearly defined.
Yeah.
So.
And then speaking of players from other countries, if you will, what I read about when Damian was with Milwaukee, apparently there was a little conflict between, now I cannot pronounce this, I don't think, there was a player from Greece, Giannis and Tetocumpo. I don't know.
Yeah, his last name is Nigerian.
He was also Nigerian?
He was from Nigerian parents who lived in Greece.
Okay.
And Giannis is a Greek name.
Oh, okay.
His first name. And Giannis is a incredibly, the English teacher in me says you shouldn't use the word unique with something that modifies it more. If something's unique, they're unique. But he was incredibly different as a player because he's 7'1" or somewhere around there, but also plays very much like a point guard. He handles the ball a lot. He distributes it. And in a way, he and Damian were not a good mix.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly...
Kind of hard to believe, but I get it. Yeah.
I mean, he's good at it. He's been the league MLP most valuable player twice and won one championship a few years back. And they didn't blend all that well together. And Damian had a couple injuries, originally a blood clot in his leg, and then the horrible thing with the Achilles tendon being damaged. And that will take him out for this whole next season, although, as I said, he'll have other jobs as kind of a assistant coach and is kind of a mentor to some of the young players that Portland has.
Yeah.
And there's an irony to that because part of Damian's being willing to leave a couple of years earlier was because they had drafted with a third pick in the draft a young point guard who is really not very well known as how good he might be. Same with Skitch Henderson is a music person.
But I remember Skitch. But
okay, but Scooter is his nickname.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, the Milwaukee thing did not work out very well, but Portland is very enthused about coming back, and so is Damian. He still owns a large home here. He has 3 children here, and much of his extended family is in Portland as well. And the community has always loved him, and he's happy to be back.
Yeah, well, it seems like a match made in heaven. By the way, I did get Damian's nickname of Big Game Dame.
Big Game Dame, or more famously, is the concept of Dame Time.
Okay.
And it's a little not real clear, but I think he was called that in high school even.
Oh, wow.
But I may be projecting it back. But and he made in his NBA career 2 famous end of game shots in playoff series that settled the series. One was like a 37-year-old desperation shot, and his when he would make a shot like that, he'd point to his wrist like he had a wristwatch there, and remind people that Dame Time is what he's famous for.
A little braggadocio, maybe?
Indeed.
But they all have it. You almost have to have it in the NBA.
Well, there's I have a shirt on that says basketball is
life.
The rest is just details.
Oh, okay.
There are things about basketball that I think are important to life, like learning to play with a team.
Thank you. All sports, I think, have a lot of that.
But most sports indeed do. And as women's basketball gets more attention in the last year or two, part of my reading of that is women understand the game better. They're more likely to be cooperative rather than gunners. They're more likely to look for the good pass than the good shot.
Right.
A good player will. I coached JV basketball for 1 year. It took up too much time and what have you. But some things are so basic. When you have the ball or when you're on the court, find out what's going on all over the place. And isn't that a good rule in life?
Well, it sure is. And I think on basketball, you have to have that in a split second. That game is so fast.
Yeah, you're moving, you're dribbling, you're ready to shoot, or you're ready to pass, or you're ready to think of something else to do. You're looking to see if a teammate is going to get set a screen for you so you can get free that way. And anyway, those are the type of things that are important in life. And also the exaltation that goes with the success. There's something ingenious about a sport where there's a lot of points involved, and the points involved have to do with whether the ball goes through the basket or it doesn't. Now, every once in a while, I've seen a ball go in the basket and somehow whirl around in the net some and somehow pop out. But that's very
my shot all the time.
That's very, very rare.
What's the rule for it actually being? Does it have to come out the bottom of the net, or is it get past the?
I think it better.
I was wondering about that just the other day. I don't know.
Okay.
But balls bounce very funny. At the time in my life when I got back into the game, I was playing in Cal's gym in Berkeley, and one time the ball was going out of bounds, and I just grabbed it before it went out of bounds and threw it as high as I could. Just and maybe threw it 60 feet high.
Oh.
And it swished.
Oh, that should have been on video.
Yeah, it should have been on video, but the other players were just falling on the floor in amazement. That
well, you're right. Playing football and the exultation of winning the game, it's fantastic. You also have to put up with the disappointment at times of losing, but that's a life lesson too.
Yes,
and teamwork. That's huge. I agree with you. I think it's really huge. Of course, it's not that way in, I guess, tennis or unless you're playing doubles.
Yeah.
But still.
Yeah. The individual sports and team sports are clearly different.
Yeah.
But,
I have to ask real quick, too. I don't think we covered it. Damian being, I hate to say undersized, but not 6'7" or 6'8". Could he dunk? Can he dunk?
oh, yeah, sure.
Oh. 'Cause I'm 6'1", and I don't even come close, but it's a lot to get off the ground.
I once had a really fine athlete student who was tall and who could dunk well die just before he was about to graduate from high school.
Oh,
it turned out he had an enlarged heart, and it had never been caught in all the tests that he did to be able to play.
Okay.
And anyway, I wound up writing a poem after that, and I don't remember the poem exactly, but one thing strikes out: hero to those of us who dunk only in our dreams and with donuts.
Well, that would be me for sure.
Most people in the NBA, and including some pretty short players, Spud Webb could dunk. He was 5'6".
Bud Webb, there you go. Boy,
He won the NBA dunking contest one year.
And it was pretty amazing.
So.
It's pretty amazing.
I don't dunk donuts, but at least now you guys are talking about something I'm familiar with.
Well, I certainly eat donuts. Not supposed to, but then I've dunked. So I can say that.
And as to Damian's career in the NBA, he was selected to the NBA All-Star team, like 8 or 9 times, including one time the first team. There are 3 teams in the NBA, and he also was selected to a lot of All-Star games and has been among scoring leaders for most of the years he's been in the league.
Well, like I said, reading about him, that was a little. Well, that was part of the story. He started out not really being noticed until that Weber State.
Yeah.
You know, the little, call it again innocuous, that's probably not the right word, but it's not a famous university, we'll say that.
For sure.
But, yeah, he sure proved everybody how good he was, and it still is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And interestingly, Portland now has some shooting guards or big guards, whatever you want to call them, that are different from the ones that Damian had with him in Portland most of his career. In many cases, he had someone whose game was very like him, C.J. McCollum and Anthony Simons, and they were about his size, and they also weren't terribly good defensively or terribly good as wingmen. But now he will have some young players that he can help develop who have much more size and athleticism, and also they're going to have a lot of help on the boards. They have 3 or 4 big men over 7 feet who have a lot of skills that once Damian is back playing with them, I'm not going to say they're going to win the whole league, but they'll be quite competitive, I'm sure.
All right. And another wonderful story reading about him was, did you know his family very well?
Not very well, but I had some contact with them. His mother worked in a nail studio.
Okay.
And his father, I think, was doing things in the building trades.
Okay.
I'm not positive.
All right. Well,
on that.
reading about him, and it was a great story. His family, it sounded like, was always behind him.
Oh, yes.
Helped him out, saved him, according to what he was saying, from getting in trouble, if you will. Mm-hmm. And what I loved about reading about after he got out of college, he went back and completed his bachelor's degree, fulfilling a promise to his mom.
Okay.
That's really cool.
Yes.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, and
Inspiring.
Shortly after he signed, I remember talking to her some, and I said, I see he's going to sign a sneaker deal with Nike. And it turned out that she said, oh, no, we've changed. He's going to be Adidas. And Nike didn't make an offer and has probably regretted it ever since.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of endorsement money that black athletes have. And I want to get back to talking about family.
Sure.
Damian and a lot of black folk living in Oakland have a lot of extended family all over town. And I think a lot of white folk don't understand that. They often want to make assumptions and things about how people live, but don't understand the strength that is in extended families in black and Hispanic communities as well, often in more depth and detail than in white families.
Yeah. Well, I worked a lot for the railroad in the East Bay, and there's definitely a different feeling. I enjoyed a lot of it, and it's a whole different place than it is here. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I should mention a little bit of history about Oakland and railroads. Oakland developed a pretty large black community much sooner than most parts of California. And there was a reason for that, and that is that the Southern Pacific Railroad had trains that essentially in those days started in New Orleans and wound up in Oakland.
Okay.
And the sleeping car porters union, most of the porters were black people.
You bet.
And when they came to Oakland, the train station was in West Oakland, the far end of the city, near the bay, and that, and
Near the port.
near the port.
Yeah,
and,
worked there too. Yeah.
yeah, and so it became natural that West Oakland became a fairly largely black community, and a very important place in the history of the blues and the history of jazz, because it had some very live music sites right near the train station, and is part of why Oakland became a major music center as well as a major sports center.
Right. Southern Pacific. That's where I got hired out on back in 1979. And another, we could just list more and more great stuff about Damian. He, in Portland, has been giving basketball camps to youth for like
6 minutes.
He's been doing it for years.
Uh-huh.
In other words, giving back to the youth. And just yet another reason why the guy is so overwhelmingly loved in the Portland area.
I was just curious how much time we have left.
Well, we have right there. Well, right there.
I see two different clocks going.
Go by the one on the desk there. That's how much time we have left, right over there.
Okay.
So, and we're down to about 6 minutes. That's how much we have left. Did you want something you wanted to get out before time ended?
Well, I can't think of it particularly, other than it's pretty amazing how much money is involved in pro sports in this country.
I can't get over it, but yeah, it is.
And I don't at all begrudge what Damian has earned, but it was earned with special talent and discipline and skills and all of that. And he's been a good person in terms of relating to the community, and he's been generally just someone who shares his wealth in good ways.
Well, that's what I'm gathering by what I read.
When I was a kid in the 50s, I was a voracious Brooklyn Dodger fan, and every year, first game we went to get the Dodger yearbook, and the last few pages of the Dodger yearbook were primarily about what the Dodgers did on the off season. And I remember Roy Campanella had a liquor store. Somebody else was a fireman. They all had jobs, in other words, in the off season.
And they weren't making a whole lot of money.
No, not
like anything like
nothing
now.
Phenomenal if he's $1 billion.
Yeah.
And I'm like you. I don't fault these guys at all. You got a talent, and you're selling it. You get what you can for it.
Well, and it sounds like it's going to a very good man, from what I read.
I just kind of have a little trouble understanding how the people who sign these contracts and manage these, how did they let it get that far out of hand?
out of my pay grade to even think about. I don't know, but it's a lot of money that we're talking about. Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
That one person is worth literally millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Well,
And part of it has to do with just the way people watch sports. They'll pay a lot of money to get into any of the NBA gyms
that's the other side of my Brooklyn Dodger fans. I could get into Ebbets Field for 50 cents.
Wow.
And it doesn't exist anymore.
no. And there's a big betting world, a lot of money going out there too.
Yeah.
That's getting a lot, I would call worse, but again, not being a fan. So
And I rarely paid that 50 cents because I was always a police athletic league or something. We got in a school bus and went.
yeah.
Oh, and
Bleacher seats were less than $1.
one funny story about Damian is as a kid, his father took him to quite a few Warrior games at the Oakland Coliseum.
Okay. Been to a few there myself. Yeah.
And anyway, Damian would stay in the Coliseum till it was virtually entirely empty, stay in the bathrooms or whatever, and then go out there and shoot.
Cool.
And I don't know if he was ever caught doing that or what have you, but he had that in his very nature when he was, you were probably talking about a junior high kid who was doing that, and yet that was part of what he did then.
Well,
and I happened to have the thing I had him fill out when he enrolled as a student in my class, and when I put for career goal, NBA, and
wow.
that wasn't unusual to see it, but
I know.
But
he did make it.
he made it in spades, I guess one could say it.
Yeah, that's great.
For sure.
I just wonder if maybe the people that worked in the gym or maybe even some players saw him doing his thing and thought, hey, man, let's let this kid go.
Yeah, it wasn't hurting anything.
He does sound like a pretty fanatic. Again, I do feel sad I didn't know about him until you and I had talked about him. But, boy, finding out all this stuff, it kind of makes me want to watch games again.
Yeah.
Of course, he's not going to be there this year, being injured. And he's 30, what is he, 37, 30?
36, somewhere around there.
Okay.
And he'll be at the games. As the coach said, he'll be kind of an assistant coach and a mentor. And there's another older player with the team who's going to be a good mentor as well.
All right. So. Good deal. Well, we are down to a minute and a half, roughly. Robert, thank you again for coming in and sharing this story. Like I said, for me, I had a lot of fun doing the research because I needed to do research because I didn't know much. Not being the basketball player, like I said, I got cut first day of freshman practice, so I figured this sport's not for me. Yeah. But that's okay.
You'll note that Damian's uniform number is a 0, which he interprets as an O, and it says it stands for Oakland.
Oh, cool.
And Ogden, where Weber State was located, of course.
Oh, cool.
And Oregon. So he's got 3 O's and his 1 O.
So as we approach the end of the hour here,
yes,
I find myself sitting and wondering how I lived this long without getting involved in the incredibly interesting game of basketball.
Well, never too late to learn, even at your age, right?
Even at my age.
Okay, my friends. Thank you, Robert. Okay. So thank you, everybody, for...
Don't forget to call me Silky.
Silky. So you've been listening to KCIWLP 100.7 FM here in beautiful Brookings. Thank you all.